know I don't let just anybody here share with you. It's a big deal to me. But I have a tremendous amount of love and respect for Homer. We go way back, so I want to encourage you to listen closely to what he's going to share and stay out of harm's reach. So, ladies and gentlemen, Homer Gibbins.
Some of my fights. I began boxing at the age of 6 years old, and you know, when you're 6 years old, my dad would work construction, and he'd come home just wanting to rest and have a good time, just relax. Well, I was big into wrestling, and when I saw him come in, lay on the ground, I was like, that's my next opponent right there. I'm about to try the new move, which was the brain buster. That's where you got on the top of the rope and you jumped off, sailed through the air, and you headbutted whoever was on the ground. And I did that. And my dad's like, that's it, he's going to the gym. You know, his thought process was I'd go to the gym, I'd get in there, and I'd get smacked around a little bit, and I said, hey, this is really in for me. Well, took me to the gym, I got in the ring, I loved it. I mean, people were cheering my name, and I was like, this is great. This is just like wrestling. You know, some of the stuff I wore kind of that way too. I boxed all through my amateur. 1976 is when I began. I fought until I was 20 years old. At 20 years old, I then went into the professional ranks under my manager and friend, Evander Holyfield. I started making my name in the professional ranks. I fought for my first world title in 1992. They told me that the guy that I was fighting, Kenny Weiss, they said, we just want to let you know that, I want to be honest with you, he killed a guy over an inning. You know, I hope that doesn't change anything because we're scheduled to fight. I said, what do you mean? I don't care. You know, it's 22, you think like that, you know. And I got in the ring with him, and in the 7th round, I took him out. And I won my first world title. 1995, the guy with the Pharaoh tarp thing, that's Hector Macho Camacho, one of the great fighters. And I got to go the distance with him. They told me that I couldn't go out. They said, there's no way you're going the distance with Hector Camacho. He outweighs you, and he's been around the sport of boxing 15 years before you stepped on the scene. I said, well, we'll see. I went the distance, went 12 rounds. Donald Trump came up to me after the fight and said, I thought you won, but, you know, they didn't ask me to judge. So, it was a great time in my life. In 95, after fighting Camacho, I had one more fight, and in my career, I was rushed to the hospital at the Louisiana Medical Center in Louisiana, and they said I was never going to be able to fight again. I was born with a condition in my neck where the odontoid process was absent. So it allowed excess movement in my neck, which put pressure on my legs, which after the fight was over, I had no reflexes. So they said, I can't believe you boxed this long. I said, I've always done it. What do you mean I can't do it? And they said, well, we're sorry, but your fighting day's over. You'll never fight again. I was really hurt because when my boxing career ended, everything else started falling apart. And that's at the time that I met Scott. We had similar backgrounds in different forms. You know, he was in the war, but had the fighter mentality, so he understood the psychology of fighting. I understood the psychology of fighting, not as good as he did, but we quickly became friends. And he said, you know, your fight's not over. I started thinking to myself, I'm saying, I wasn't ready to give it up anyway. He said, well, your fight's not over. I think he was talking more spiritually, but I took it, in boxing as well, and I lied and passed physicals, and reinstated back into boxing in 1998. Had my first fight back and started moving through the rankings, and it's amazing. I felt like, wow, this is where I belong, this is where I need to be. In 2006, they said, you know, you're never going to get the opportunity to fight for a title. I mean, you might as well quit. And all of a sudden, the doors opened up for me to fight Chad Broussard, a guy who was my age. And I went down to his hometown in Louisiana, and you saw he didn't make it. In the fourth round, the fight was over, and I became the IBU World Welterweight Champion. The reason, I'm just giving you a little bit of background about the fights, but what I really came to talk to you about is Christ in you. After boxing was over in 2008, I was able to say, I'm done with this. I won my second world title. Had to go to court to get my belt. They put the belt on me in the ring, but then before I got out of the ring, they took it off, and they wouldn't give it to me. And I was like, my wife told me, she said, maybe God isn't in this. Maybe just think about this. Maybe, God's not in this anymore. Because you win a fight, you can't even get what belongs to you. And I was able to walk away. But just like Scott said years before, my fight was not over. I have 6 children. They started 22 and then down to my little girl just turned 3 last week. I have 4 at home that are under, 8, 6, 4, and 3. They'll all turn a year this year. And my fight is not over. My fight is a different venue now. It's spiritual. I have little children to raise, to walk in a Christian life, in a godly life. And the most important role that I have is teaching them. My son, we were watching the video before we came. My son was like, that's what I want to do right there. I said, no, it ain't. Your mama wants you to be a doctor. He said, I'm going to be a boxing chef. A boxing chef. George Foreman did it, so I guess it works. One of the things that, when my first fight was when you see against Camacho, man, that was in front of millions of people. And I remember when I was getting ready to go into the ring, I asked my manager, I said, hey, I can't believe that I get to fight in front of millions of people. He said, yes, and let's don't let them find out the results 10 seconds before you do. That's the pin count, yes. I was so excited to be able to fight in that facility. And after my boxing career was over, you think, what's God? I was kind of feeling like, how's God going to use me? Now that because everybody, you're remembered by your last fight. My last fight, I didn't win. Although I won it, I didn't win. And I said, man, how's God going to use me? Next thing you know, I'm working at the Medical Center of Central Georgia. 2013. I get diagnosed. There's a mass in my lung. For 3 weeks, they were talking about everything, and the doctor, finally, it's the week of surgery, he said, well, I'm just going to let you know. Because I've seen the way you walked in the office, I've seen the way you talked to us, and everything is, I think you're strong enough to understand the truth. It's cancer. We're going to go in, we're going to take the cancer out, and once we're in there, we'll find out what else we got to do. I said, so what you got to do is what you got to do. People around me were just amazed. They were like, how come you're not falling apart? Christian friends, people that go to church are just like, can't believe you're not falling apart. I'm like, I really can't tell you why I'm not. But I said, I do have a peace about it. I know that, if this is how God's going to be glorified, it's by the way that I handle this cancer. And my children who are watching me has to see their dad battle this. They're going to see their dad battle this in a Christian manner. Christ-like. So, next thing you know, they get in there and the day of surgery, they cut me open. I got a big scar, pointing scar on my back, goes under my shoulder. And they get in there and take out the mass, and come to find out it's a vegetable, like tissue. You're hearing exactly what I heard. A vegetable like tissue. And they're like, the doctor comes to my bedroom side, he's like, Mr. Gibbins, I don't know what to tell you. I said, did you get everything out? He said, yeah, we did. We did. It's just, do you recall choking on something when I was asleep? Well, I don't know when you would have choked on it. I said, what do you mean when I would have choked on it? Are you talking about when I was under anesthesia? He said, well, no, like prior to that. I said, no. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when I got in there and I cut the piece out of your lung, it was a vegetable-like tissue. And I said, praise God. Amen. Praise God. Yes. He said, well, do you remember choking? I said, no. How big was it? He said, probably about 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch. I said, if I'd have choked on something 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch, I would have known it. I mean, my wife does try to force vegetables down me, but I really would have known it. I should have asked him what type of vegetable it was. I bet it was eggplant. But it wasn't cancer. And the whole time, people around the hospital saw the way I was walking. And they're like, oh, if I could have that kind of faith. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The faith of Homer? That's what you want? You've got to be joking. But people were able to see a difference in the way I was handling the situation. And the reason is that I had been studying about God's stewardship. And I know when you hear the word stewardship, the first thing you think about is money. Because everybody does, people preach on stewardship and they start talking about money. There's 6 things that God is going to be asking you about your stewardship. One of them is money. I'm not going to lie to you. Money in your possessions. He's going to ask you about it. What did you do with what I blessed you with? Then I think he's going to ask you about this. He's going to say, what did you do with the most important thing I gave you? Your time. You want to know what's important to me? Where do I spend my time? Most of my time is with my children. My 2 older ones I missed. I messed up. I was trying to be a star. I was trying to reach for the spotlight. In the process of reaching for the spotlight, I missed out on what my true calling was. Because God said, train them diligently in the way that they should go. How can you train when you ain't there? Some of us are like that with our job. We get so busy wanting to buy things and afford things that we forget the true blessing that we have while they're in our presence. So time is the most important thing that you're going to be asked about your stewardship with. What did you do with your time? The second thing, or the third thing, is your talent. Not only am I a boxer, and I can knock most of you up. Not him. Most of you, I wouldn't want to because that's not the thing that I do. Plus, I had surgery and, probably be slow and get hit back, I really like the whole hit back thing, I like to beat up somebody and I get beat up. But, that time's going to come. When you're going to say the talents that I gave you, Homer, you can draw. I can draw. I can paint. I'll tell you something about God. God always tends to give me a gift. At the same time, He gives me a handicap with it. I can paint. I can draw. I can't see color. I paint some stuff. I was painting this canvas one time, me and my wife, because my wife's an artist too. And I say, oh, this is good. She's like, why are you painting that color? I said, iris, green is a field. She said, iris, purple. I said, purple? That has nothing to do with Irish people. She said, iris is a flower. I said, oh, sorry. I was thinking Irish. There's been several times that some of the stuff that I wore, you saw, like the pink suit. The color I see very good is pink. I like things that flash because I can see flash. So I wore a lot of flashy pink stuff. People would go, he's gay. Thank goodness I came around with my wife. Right, no gay stuff here, boy. And number two is I started thinking about certain reasons why I would wear pink. Okay, number one, I always want to be in your mind. When you think about promoting something, I was promoting myself. You say, you remember that Homer Gibbins? Homer is not really a common name. Now in Griffin, it's a little bit more common, but it's not a really common name. Say, you remember that Homer? No. White guy? No. Wore pink? Oh yeah, I remember him. Thought he was gay. But that was some of the things that I did to promote myself, and to keep myself in your mind. So you thought about me, and even to this day, people don't remember me, but they remember what I wore. You remember Homer? He wore that pink stuff. Oh yeah, oh well. That's but that's not my talent. It's just some of the reasons why I did the things I did. Part of my talent. Second thing is that next thing is your spiritual gifts. Each one of us has a spiritual gift. Some of you may not know your spiritual gift. Some spiritual gifts is just spending time with somebody listening. Because if you try to spend time with me and want me to listen, I'm probably going to out-talk you. Just that's the way God gifted me. God gifted me with a mouth and no brain. But that's the way God does things. He gives you gifts. Are you compassionate? My wife is the most merciful person. She married me. She had mercy on me. But that's the thing, mercy. What is your spiritual gift? Are you using it for God? Because God's going to ask you, I gave you this gift. What are you doing with it? Scott has the gift of administration, teaching. He's using it. I've seen him disciple people. I'm one of them. He also took me under my, when my career was over and I was broken, he ministered to me and said, hey, your fight isn't over. Now get out there and fight. Didn't know what he was doing, but put me out there. I started fighting again. And I want you to understand too, there's God's will and there's God's permissive will. Sometimes God allows you to do things, and if you believe the Bible is true, which I totally do, all things come together for the good.
That's right.
Sometimes the good it's not seen right then. It may be down the road, but all things come together for the have to tell you, to be where I'm at now, I'd go through all that. Oh, a person who's been to Vietnam, who was in a prison war camp, would tell you that the experience that he went through changed him forever. He's a better person today because of where he was. But if you ask him if you want to go through it again, will he tell you, yeah? No, but it changed him forever. So everything you're going through, things you're going through right now, I want to encourage you and say that it's okay. God's got it handled. And you're going to be able to one day sit and talk to someone who's going to be in that same position. You're going to say, oh, you're not going to believe this, but I was there. They're going to look at you and go, no, don't lie to me. No, I'm telling you the truth, I was there. And you're going to be able to minister to them. And it's going to amaze you. You're going to be like, God put me through all this so that, or not put me through this. Don't get me wrong, God does not put you there. God allowed me to go through this so I could be here for you. That's amazing. I mean, and I sometimes just think about some of the things that God does, and I just laugh. The way He made me meet my wife, I didn't like her at the beginning. I mean, she was cute and quiet. I always think people that are quiet, they have skeletons in their closet. That's why they don't talk. They don't want stuff falling out. But my wife is just, she's beautiful. And now we've been married for going on 13 years, 12 years, sorry. 12 years. We've been together for 13 years. We're going on 13 years of marriage. And that woman, oh my goodness. If I had to go through all the stuff I went to be where I am now, I'd do it tomorrow. I love my life. Don't have no money. Don't have any hair. But she loves me like I am. And we have 4 beautiful children at home that, when I come home, I used to love when I walked through the door, when we walked through the ropes, got in the ring and bounced around and said, and they said, and now introducing 2-time world champion. I'm like, ooh, that pride just builds you up. Now I come home and I hear them at the window. Dad's home! Dad's home! And I'm like, oh. My wife likes to hear that too because she's leaving. she's been home with them all day. She's gone. But that is where God is just blessed me beyond belief. And your spiritual God is going to hold you accountable for your relationships. What did you do with the relationships that He gave you? The wife that He gave you. The husband that He gave you. The friends that He gave you. What did you do? Did you lead them to a growing knowledge of Christ? Or did you miss the opportunity? The lady who waits on you at the restaurant. That she doesn't, she would love to be here on Sunday. But guess what? She's got to pay her bills. So guess what? She's got to work. She may be a single mom. What did you do with our relationship? Did you take the time to talk to her? Because He's going to ask you what too. What did you do with the gospel that I gave you? What did you do with my gospel? Because you're a steward of my gospel. And He wants to know what you do. Did you do like the guy in the parable of the talents? One got 5, one got 2, one got 1. Did you hide it? Or did you multiply it? Because He's going to ask you. Last thing, is your relationship with Christ evident to others by all that God has given you? I'm asking myself that question too. Everything that God's given you, is it evident to other people that God is real? Thank you guys very much.
started, tell them a story about why you kept this shape.
In 1999, they asked me to fight the Mexican Olympian, Carlos Martinez. And I was like, I do this, yeah. And they said, you know what make you look meaner? I said, what? Shave your head. No. I didn't realize I was losing my hair as bad as I was, but still had some right here. Kind of like that, I was holding on tight. So I shaved it. I went to the gym and I was like, saw this guy Juan. And I was like, Juan, no. I said, hey, you want to get in the ring and throw a little bit? No. So I asked the guy, Edward. Yeah, you want to get in the ring and throw a little bit? No. So I said, Juan, what? Oh, Homer, I didn't know that was you, man. I said, you look mean, dude, you look mean. So I kept it like this, from 1999 till now, I figured, hey, it scared him. Thank God it didn't scare my wife away. She just thought I looked like a bald egghead.
Well, not everybody, that's good enough looking head to go bald like that, do you?
I know, not everybody can pull that off, right? When we started SWAT, students with a testimony from the ground up, which was, if you've not noticed, that he jumps into character very quickly. There's a reason for that. He wasn't always quite as fluid that way, but he was there in the beginning when we had their first boot camp, challenged the kids, and we were reading some of those letters from that first boot camp earlier today, and we developed that. He was there, and he's still working with that SWAT team, and many of you are disciples here. Don't you see the impact one makes when you invest? And and this is the key, invest back in you. That's what you miss a lot of times. So it's a tremendous thing to witness that. So you just never know what God does. Questions? I know you guys are curious. I see some of you just beaming back there. You got them. I can't let you out this early. You'll be too spoiled.
He feels comfortable enough and has enough aura about him that it would be a sit-down conversation, not just quick.
No doubt about that.
We can do that too.
We can have an ask.
Thank
I asked her, but should we bring food?
True, she did.
I did.
But she's always feeding you, and I know that you, like me, are worried about that. So we're not in our fighting weight anymore.
Marriage has been good to me. It's always like marriage has been real good to me. No questions?
I like the personality.
Huh?
I like the personality.
Well, I appreciate that. Scott's not bad at personality.
He said, when we met, he said, you're the only person I will actually listen to, because, I guess my personality, but because of the fighting background, he wouldn't necessarily engage. It was one of our first conversations. Got him in SWAT, plugged him right in.
I'd like to shake his hand.
Oh yeah, he's going to hang around. You can count on that.
You're right. Well, we're all in the family, so we hug.
And I love boxing.
Oh,
I appreciate what you did.
I can't watch it anymore because all of a sudden I start thinking, if I got in shape, I'd get that boy run for his money. Yeah, I get hurt.
My dad sparred with me all the time when I was a kid, and I grew up loving boxing. So
I have 4 girls and 2 boys, and my little girls, because I played with my little boy, and my oldest boy, I play with my little boy, and my little girls want to play too. And it's amazing because I just love the time doing it. I'll be playing around with weights right here. Of course, my boy sneaks one in. He's like, how you do this right here? Uppercut. Yeah, I talked to that, didn't I? But any other questions?
I had a boxing question.
Yes, sir.
Did Evander ever get over Mike Tyson?
Friends now? They are friends. Actually, yes, they are friends. People don't understand the fight tactic of that. It was not Mike trying to be mean. what Mike was trying to do was to make Evander stand toe-to-toe with him in trade. The only way he could beat Evander was for him to stand toe-to-toe in trade, and then Evander would get hit with a shot. If that would have happened, nobody would have ever mentioned the Bible. All it was is, you got knocked down, shut up crying.
So
You know what I'm
you
saying?
can take him out of his game.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I would do, is when I come into the ring, I would do things, first of all, you're dressed in pink, that kind of puts it puts the guy off a little bit, then all of a sudden you get out there in a fight, and you do things to make the other guy mad, because when you're mad, you don't think. If you don't think, you make mistakes. You make mistakes, I knock you out. I had 62 professional fights, 16 losses, I had 46 wins, 32 knockouts. I did not like going the distance. That was, a chance that I would lose. Didn't like the chance. I have 2 world titles. They're still they're in my house, sitting on the shelf. My kids look at it and go, "That's a big belt buckle." Kind of.
The reason I asked about Mr. Holyfield, he was always my hero. And I looked up to him because of his Christian walk. He was one of the few people that if he got hit or he got hurt, I couldn't stand to watch it. But I've always admired him for his walk. I know that there's been a lot of temptations when you get to that level.
Well, that's what, the temptation is always there. No matter where, no matter where you're at. My little bit of spotlight, temptation was there. And I'm going to tell you what, it's very enticing. It's hard not to fall because it's everywhere. But, I just thank God that God protected me from that. He was trying to, now I'm not saying I lived perfect, don't get me wrong, because I did not. But there was a lot of things that could have been real bad for me. And I was talking at a school one time, and they were like, "What do you think about Evander having so many kids?" And I said, "You and me, just walking down the street. Maybe, if we're lucky, some girl looks at us and goes, hey, not bad. And you got millions of dollars, a lot of girls look at you going, hey, not bad." So temptation is more, it's greater. Your responsibility of handling that is greater. I just thank God that He didn't get me to that point where I was, so overwhelmed with temptation that I would have fallen to it. And again, that is God's grace, God's mercy, because I'm a man, just like every other man. And it's Evander was one of those people who fell. I don't excuse it, and me and him talked about it several times. He said, "You don't understand." I said, "You know what? I really don't. I don't understand. I don't understand wherever you go. Some pretty woman trying to grab your attention. I don't understand that."
Brother said that.
Yeah,
And I still admire him. I mean, we all fall.
yeah.
So if I ever saw him today, I'd shake his hand and hopefully give him a big hug. And, I love Ben Holyfield. He walked the walk for many years. And,
Well,
when he falls, everybody sees it.
yeah, well, it's like if you fell, those around you would see it, but not millions of people. It wouldn't be broadcast on ESPN. So, you have to take that into consideration. I never questioned his. I grew up with him in the gym. When I was 6 years old, we fought on the same team. And when I turned professional in 1990, they offered me a contract, and I said, no, under Evander said, "How about your options?" "My option? What option?" "Well, how much money you make?" "What do you mean?" "If you fight for a title for $1 million, how much money you make?" I said, "All of it." He said, "No, not according to that contract. You don't make nothing but $5,000 up front, $500 a week." I said, "What?" So, and I asked him, I said, "Well, how would you like to give me a hand to manage my career?" So for the first 3 years of my career, Evander was my manager. If you guys got Facebook, you go on Facebook, you can see a picture of me at Holyfield sitting in the dressing room after I won the title. I love the vendor. A lot of fighters, man, I love a lot of fighters because we had camaraderie. We all understood that it wasn't about fighting as much as it was just the competition. It's no different than playing basketball, except for you get punched in the face. Same thing.
I admire you for, what you've done as a boxer and what you went through, and I know life changed. I knew a guy here in Macon that was well known for boxing. He went through a lot of training and won some fights. But after he got up in age, he sort of fell off the map. Or never hear I went to school with him. And,
Jackie
yeah.
British. Yeah.
And
I saw him back in the 70s.
he went to Florida, and that's the last place I know him. He ended up dying there. And I don't know from what, but he went the other way. And, I'm glad he went.
Well, we all have, and I wish I could explain how God's thinking is, but His thoughts are way above mine. His plans are way above mine. He gives us opportunities to turn to. And Jackie Wynn was one of the guys I looked up to as a 6-year-old boy watching him fight. He was bad. But at the same time, he had opportunities and chose to go the opposite route. And sometimes that happens. And that's why us as Christians ought to always be in prayer for other people. Always be in prayer. It says in the Bible to pray without ceasing. That does not mean we're going, but if you see a person like that and God, I just want to keep it to you. Because God, I believe in prayer. Hey, trust me, I believe in prayer. Yes, sir.
I think the good Lord blessed you when you was little, when you jumped into your daddy and your daddy took you to the gym. He already knew what you was going to be before you was ever got there.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that God knew what He was doing. And wish He would have told me, But God doesn't work that way either. But God does have a plan for each person's life.
Mm-hmm.
He has it set out. And sometimes we veer off course.
Yeah.
And He's got turnarounds for you to come back. I tell the SWAT kids I work with all the time, they've gotten younger. They start off at high school and college. Now we're working with 6th graders, and we saw that, this was impactful. And I want to catch them when they're younger, so we can give them something to do with their hands. Because idle hands are the devil's workshop, right? So I want to give them something to do. And we started working with 6th graders, and man, seeing of course, when you work with 6th graders, you also have to work with the 6th grade drama. Not the drama on stage, outside the stage, but we're working with these kids, and I see the impact that they're having. I mean, when they perform, they're all like, oh, did you see that? That man was like bowing down praying in the middle of the service. I said, yeah, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing that God chose to use you in that man's life today? So I believe God has a plan and a purpose.
Yeah. I think a lot of people look at me like I'm kind of crazy when I say this, but I found me another fruitcake. You. I mean, that is good.
Yeah.
Not bad. But what I was referring to is your mouth. When you can touch everybody and get them to listen, then you working from the Lord.
Well,
Because you can bring the people to the Lord a lot quicker than this mouth being shut.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, we are all going to be held accountable for the gospel that God has given us. And this is the thing. People say, well, I can't talk to people because I'm introverted. God don't believe in an introvert. Because let me tell you, if you go out to a good restaurant, you'll tell someone, ooh, that place over here for $1.50. If you got something good with Jesus, you're gonna tell somebody about it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not telling somebody about it, maybe you ain't got it. You know, I'm just shooting straight with you. If God is, and that's why I tell the kids in SWAT all the time. You know, people want to see us for real, be for real. You know, people want to know what God is doing in your life. You struggle with a weight problem. How's God helping you with that? I'm not saying you're miraculous. You'll wake up tomorrow going, whoa, look at this. That's only on TV.
You want this?
I'm working on that one right there. But I mean, that's the way God works, though. But God is, He's not going to force Himself on you. He's always willing to try His best to quicken to your attention and to get your attention on Him. You know, think about this. People say, I don't know why I just got so much trial. I just don't know why. I said, when do you pray to God? When you're going through trouble. Maybe you ought to start praying to when things going good.
Yeah.
I mean, if the only time you talk to me is when you have problems, I hope you have more problems. I'm just saying, I mean, hey, let's be truthful. I mean, God created us for fellowship. He wanted to fellowship with us. Who's silent? Because His Word speaks to me all the time. When I open His Word up, He puts something in my vision that is like, because I have a hard time being compassionate. I have to deem you worthy of my compassion. Where my wife is not like that, but I have to deem you worthy. So, you know, if I'm walking down the street and somebody says, hey, can I have $1? Sure. I didn't say I was going to get to. I said, you can have one. Get off your booty and go to work. Have as many as you want. But, you know, but that's not compassion. You know, but that's the way I am. You know, and God knows that. So God will give me people in my vision that I can minister to, because His compassion is not in it. You know, so all of a sudden I'll be talking about sports with somebody. I really don't watch sports. I love to talk it. Let's talk about some NASCAR. I'll talk about some NASCAR with him. The disappointment of rain. Because God said back when Noah was, you know, in the boat for 40 days and 40 nights, it wasn't going to rain like that no more. And it rained out NASCAR. I'm mad. But, yeah, I mean, God has given me joy. And let me tell you one thing I love about Scott. He allowed me to speak. I don't have no money. I wasn't a big athlete in Georgia Tech or making millions of dollars. I'm just a man who got the opportunity to fight. And me and Scott Dolan, He gave me the opportunity to speak. Your testimony is just as valid as mine is. You were a sinner, lost, on your way to hell, and God chose to save you. You mean to tell me that won't preach? You mean to tell me that that's not a testimony worthy of, I was going to hell. Ain't got nothing to do with that boxing. I was going to hell, and God said, no, not that way. I died for that one. That'll preach. And that right there is a testimony. And cause people think, well, I gotta come up with a testimony about doing drugs and, you know, living a wild lifestyle and sleeping around. Why? If that ain't your testimony, that ain't your testimony. Because let me tell you, there's certain people that you can reach, I can never reach. But God has put them in your reach. They're within your reach. Are you reaching them? Yeah. God's good, I ain't gonna lie. And for Him to use us and change someone's life, wow, that's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. And let me tell you, men, Fathers, it starts at home. They say that children see God the way that they see you. So if you're a book of rules, that's how they see God. If I just, do all these rule things and everything's good. That ain't the way I read the Bible. I don't read God being a God of rules. Does he want you to follow rules? No. Jesus said, I come to perfect the law, not to abolish it. So the law is not bad. The law is good. The law is perfect. It's just not perfect for salvation. That's truth. Right?
Thank you. You heard some of those recurring themes before? Did you tell the discipleship? Did you hear that? I'm so very proud that God used it. Even you. Even me. All right, we're going to ask them to hang around, but I want to encourage you. We are going to take up a love offering for him, whatever God lays on your heart, just to bless him. He's come all the way up here, and we want to send him home with that. So I encourage you to do that. You'll come and play for us, Miss Janet. And in the meantime, we will ask for just a brief opportunity for you to spend some time in prayer, and we'll continue to lift up Homer and what he's using the ministry God's given him for. He's taking the discipleship, not seminary, not pastoring, discipleship, the command, and he's just being obedient. That's what he's doing. He's telling you a story. That's what you're commanded to do. Exactly the same thing. And that's what I love to see. So I encourage you to continue to pray for him. Follow his site. And if you don't know how to get on there, talk to William. He'll help you. Get on there, because he's between him or Lane or Francis, or, well, we got a lot of people around here that can do that. Just don't ask me, because I'm not that good at it. All right? Well, let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, I thank you for your grace, your love. I thank you for Homer and his witness, his commitment, and his stayed true to his call. As you've called him and commanded to discipleship, he continues that walk today. He's perfect because you've made him perfect, not because of his actions. Father, I thank you for his witness, and I pray for him and his family, that you'll bless them and continue to shine your grace upon them, that you'll continue to give that path that will be incredibly effective. We know that you'll work all things out for his good, for your glory. Father, just know that we lift him up together as a church family. Be glorified in his actions and in ours. May tonight we be an encouragement to him, just as he was to us. May we do all things that center around you and you alone. Thank you for the privilege to be in your presence, to be your servant. In Jesus' name, amen.